Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and today we're talking about site speed, SEO, conversion, and we're going to take some complex technical topics and make them simple for you so you can make better decisions around how you build your next funnel. To walk us through this conversation is Jordan Mederich. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brian, and thanks for everyone for listening in.
Now, I just got your app, DropFunnels, recommended to me by my sales coach as I was looking at rebuilding one of my websites, and I was looking at site speed and looking at the various issues that I had on my current site. So before we get into the SEO side of things, let's just talk about site speed and what the state of the art is in terms of site speed, mobile versus desktop, and the experience and what we know about conversion rates in terms of how long it takes a page to load.
Oh, great. It's a great topic. And unfortunately for too many people, they gloss over this topic and they'll go out and they'll just pick really any infrastructure to build their entire business on, their livelihood on, but without looking at some of the critical details, right? And so maybe they'll pick the one that's maybe popular or the one that, I don't know, maybe they can get for free or just find or scrounge it all kind of around. But there are a lot of really critical aspects of building your site on a strong foundation that can literally make the difference between tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars in additional revenue. And so as it relates to site speed, there's been dozens of studies done from Amazon, Google, LinkedIn, Facebook. They've all done these site speed comparisons and found that on two pages that are identical, so two identical pages, but put onto two different infrastructures, one that would load at, say, over 3 seconds and one under 3 seconds, the one under 3 seconds converts at a gargantuan difference. In fact, Amazon found that for every 100 milliseconds of latency that they found on their own site, we're talking about 100 milliseconds of time, they could lose up to a 1% conversion rate for every 100 milliseconds. So they'd be losing billions and billions of dollars in revenue just because of such a tiny difference. Now that tiny microscopic, seemingly microscopic difference might not feel like it makes a big difference to probably most people. They say, hey, I can always speed it up later, but it actually affects you now. I mean, if it affects the big guys now, it affects you right now too. And so the general rule of thumb is that you need to choose an infrastructure that can get your sites to load in under 3 seconds, period. It has to be under 3 seconds, period, especially for funnel-based pages. Now, website pages, they can be, because there's a ton of content on it or videos or things that you're embedding from other servers, so it kind of depends on some of those things. If there are these really big pieces, then maybe it's not quite a huge deal. But in fact, Google has never actually said that speed is like a number one ranking factor. There's other factors that are important as well. But especially for any conversion-based page, so your opt-in pages, your sales pages, your checkouts, they all need to load very quickly, and especially on mobile, it's becoming increasingly important. So really that rule of thumb, no matter what you're doing, if your pages, and you can go to a site called gtmetrics.com to test this out, go run your site speed and find out how fast it's actually loading. If it's over 3 seconds, you're just losing money, period. And you either need to optimize or get onto an infrastructure that can actually support that.
I do a mastermind where we meet up twice a week for a workshop. It's called the Redbeard Accelerator. You can find out at joinredbeard.com, a page not currently built in DropFunnels. But one day I brought up a site speed tool, and we had fun that day just pulling people's websites live on a screen share. And people would just groan. They groan when it finally loaded up, and they'd be like, oh, as you'd see, mobile speed, 7.6 seconds, desktop speed 5 seconds, or over 10 seconds. And I'd say, one of our members, they just got their site rebuilt by someone who obviously was not paying enough attention to speed when they're building their tech stack for this new site, because they just got the thing rebuilt and it was something horrible like 10-second load time. And I was saying, so here, maybe you should go give your web person the link to this report right here and just have them look at some of these things, because it is beautiful, tells a great story, but this 10-second thing, we can't have that. It's a big problem. It's a big problem for 95% of people. So without getting too technical, how does DropFunnels solve this problem?
Sure. So I actually started DropFunnels primarily because, I was building several businesses at the same time, and I was using old school WordPress so that I could, try to get it ranked, because WordPress is really the number one platform to get your content ranked on Google. It powers 34% of the entire internet. And I'd like bolt on ClickFunnels or some other funnel builder for sales funnels. And then I'd have this thing over here and I'd have that thing over there. And one day I just broke down realizing, man, this, especially as a solopreneur, which I was at the time, how overwhelming it is to try to duct tape all these things together. And if one thing breaks, the entire system breaks. And then you realize a week later that you've been losing sales the entire week because of one tiny thing being broken, one tiny connection. And I realized, man, I've got to find some way to bring this all into one. So that's really what spawned the birth of DropFunnels, was how do I get the SEO power, the speed, the ranking ability, every feature that I want into just one platform, but with no code, no tech, great support. And I realized it just didn't exist. So really the DropFunnels came from solving my own problem, which inevitably ended up solving lots of other people's problems at the same time, is to have an infrastructure that can support you really from the beginnings of your business all the way to scaling it. So, when it comes down to both speed, but also rankability and choosing your own infrastructure, we've got a lot of kind of secret sauce pieces that helps our code base to become fast. And again, there's two sides of the coin. There's the infrastructure, but then there's also the creator. So if someone's coming into really any page, or it doesn't matter if you're on the fastest infrastructure in the world, but you kind of architect it like a monkey, with like just huge images. It's like,
I feel seen.
Yeah, there's no, there's no getting around. Like there needs to be a little bit of creative intelligence in terms of ensuring that your images aren't just gargantuan. Our system automatically optimizes images, optimizes videos, text, and then essentially spreads it around what's called a global CDN. That means that anyone around the world can see your pages in an already cached basis. So we use some pretty sophistication cache layering, which means we'll spread your site around the entire internet. If you update it, then it'll update those cache layers. But instead of someone in, I don't know, like the UK looking at a website in the United States and trying to pull it up for the first time, that can actually increase the site speed, pretty significantly, or the slowness of it. Instead, what we do is we send that out to something like 56 different servers around the entire globe, so that it can be really quickly accessed from anywhere.
I'm looking at Zapier right now, and I'm seeing that it looks like if I in DropFunnels get a lead, I can go send that over to Keep, which is the CRM that I'm currently using for all my email stuff. And then I can go do my fulfillment of something I sell, or even a lead, or if I make a sale through DropFunnels, I can go send them an email through my other CRM. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and actually there's a native integration with Infusionsoft as well, which keep buying Infusionsoft as well. So you can actually just add that directly to your checkout forms or your opt-in pages. But Zapier is definitely a powerful tool to automate a lot of your business. And DropFunnels, I always say it's not meant to be everything to everyone. It's extremely good for the right type of person and what they're trying to solve. But we're not trying to be a Keep or Infusionsoft like replacement, for example. So we have native integrations with those platforms, ActiveCampaign, Aweber, MailChimp. These various platforms that really focus on mass mailing, for example. Inside the platform, you can direct two-way communicate with people. We leverage a lot of SMS conversational marketing. So you can SMS back and forth. We see that the open rates tend to be significantly higher on SMS than on email. But especially for those building an email list, you just natively add Keep or Infusionsoft directly into your opt-in forms, or you can always do more fancy Zapier types of things if you want to, but it gives you that kind of latitude.
What kind of cart abandonment stuff do you have built into DropFunnels?
Yeah, good question. So there's the basic, for those who aren't familiar with like what cart abandonment is all about. It's essentially if someone starts a checkout process but then leaves, what happens to them? Like how can you regain that back? So what I suggest in that particular case is we have two different types of order forms. So you can actually, if you were to build a page, you can imagine that you can build it just like you're building a cake. You're adding all these ingredients directly to this platter to eventually bake up the exact cake that you're looking for. And so there's these things called modules. You just drag them right out to the page, and a couple of the modules would be something like a video embed or opt-in form or checkout form, those types of things. So you add that directly to the form, and there's two different sales checkout formats or types. One is a traditional checkout form that allows you to add unlimited order. Actually, maybe it's not unlimited at this point, but that's the goal. I think you can do up to 5 order bumps directly to that. And then you can do upsells and downsells throughout the funnel sequence. But if you're looking to do cart abandonment, my biggest suggestion is to use the 2-step checkout form, where essentially the first step, and if you've never seen this before, I'm sure you've bought something through a 2-step order form in the past, where you're giving your initial name, email, and typically phone information first. And then as soon as they hit next step, which sends them over to the billing information, that actually triggers sending that data to your autoresponder. So you can follow up with them after that first step. So if they start out checking out, but nothing, maybe they don't complete the purchase for whatever reason, you're able to send out whatever emails you'd like to do from that point to send them back to the checkout form.
And so your part of your sales pitch here is that that's all integrated in one place in DropFunnels, because we don't need to go by adding on code. Like I don't need to add code from my my Keep CRM onto my Spiffy order form. So if they don't answer, if they start to check out, but they don't continue, I don't need to go and send the information back to somewhere else. You guys have that integrated in DropFunnels, right?
So essentially, there's a couple ways to go about it. My suggestion is to use that first step of the 2-step order form to really build whatever it is that you're looking for. But you're right, there's no code, there's no tech. You can literally integrate your autoresponder upon that first step, and they select that option, and then whatever dunning sequence or cart abandonment options you'd like to implement, you can certainly do so. But on the 2-step order form specifically, yeah, it does give you that option. My best recommendation, if you're not going to be using a 2-step order form type of thing, would be instead, if you're going to use just a normal checkout, is to add an opt-in form on the first step of the funnel, which does give you some of that it's almost like a cart abandonment sequence where we can follow up with leads, continually pushing them back to the checkout page. And we find that especially when you separate those into 2 different stages, it's just different strategies. If I were to send people to an opt-in form first, then to a checkout form, about 50% of the people who do not buy will come back to the checkout page, to the sales page, when I follow up with them directly through email. So it's definitely a powerful tool set. You can use SMS or email to make that communication for sure.
That's fascinating. I'm thinking about using this for rebuilding a sales page I have, where I like, if it worked, it's one of these, if the tool actually adds even 1 sale a month, it more than pays for itself. So right. It's learning a new tool, right? And I'm already fluent in Keep. I'm fluent in Thrive Architect as my main landing page builder. How fast does it take to learn to add DropFunnels to things I can build?
Yeah, I'll tell you, kind of a peek behind the veil. It's the number one, I'd say barrier to people jumping into any new system, frankly. And it's, DropFunnels would not escape that either, that there's always something new to learn, just finding where things are. But we find that when a lot of people dive in and they're able to play around, they can realize, oh yeah, here's where my funnels are. It's just all in the menu. Or if I want to go build a website page, it's going to be static and maybe not super changing, go build it there. If I want to build a pipeline, here's where I go to do that. But I do find that anyone who's coming from a WordPress based infrastructure already, they can jump into it with no problems at all. They'll find everything to be very, very similar in that respect, just because the code base and generally the navigation tends to be very similar. And so, this is not a replacement for Shopify, for example, for like a full e-commerce platform. We always say use the tool that's right for the job, but especially for people selling courses or high ticket products or even low ticket products, digital or physical, and you're going to be selling it through a funnel, DropFunnels is the best place to do it.
Wonderful. Let's zoom out a little bit to the big picture. There's one of 2 places this conversation could go. One of them is, I want to hear what you think is going to be working well for upsells and adding value to an order. That's one big question. Another big question is, what are you seeing with membership subscriptions, and what kinds of prices people are asking, and what does it really take to have a high value membership? Like let's even say like a $97 a month sort of medium value membership.
Sure.
So let's either which one of those 2 sounds like more fun. What kind of upsells and value maximization actually works, or we have time for one of these, or the $97 membership. What do you really have to have in there to go generate sales?
Well, I think I could probably tackle both of them pretty quickly. So I'd say, first of all, for everyone who's listening, if you have any checkout form without an order bump on it, you are losing money, period. We'll find it usually an over 50% take rate on an order bump. And what that means is that it's a little checkbox. It's super simple for them to check a box and add an ancillary or complementary product to their purchase. So for example, we just launched this new front end. It's a $37 mini course about how to build the perfect video sales letter. And it walks you through A to Z on how to do the whole thing. So it's $37, but we also added a $29 asset vault that gives you more scripts, more inspiration, references, some Google Slide documents, all the things for people who want to just kind of cut in front of the line. So we add that as an order bump, and we've got about a 60% take rate on that. So anytime you're adding, even if you don't have upsells and other steps throughout the funnel and whatnot, even if you're not going to have that, you have to have order bumps. So if I could force every entrepreneur to do that, they'd probably come back and thank me much later. So if you're listening to this, be sure to do that. On the other side of the coin.
Well, hold on. One more thing before we get there. For the order bump, what is the optimum price tag? Is it 50% of the main offer on the page? Sometimes people put like a $7 thing on a $97 product. What do you find?
Boy, I think in a high sophistication market, this is my kind of cutthroat answer to it. Unfortunately, there's nothing completely global. If you're in a sophisticated market where people already know who you are, they've probably bought from you before, or they already respect the work that you're doing, your order bump can actually be significantly higher than your initial price point. For example,
really,
I just went through this course through someone who does this consulting thing, and sometimes I'll buy other people's stuff just to kind of study what they're doing. He had a $100 live 2-hour consultation call with, there's probably a couple hundred people on there, but he had a $1,000 order bump that gave access to all these courses and all these other things that he had bundled up that would be probably a tenth of the price of buying them all separately. So that order bump makes sense because just the amount of value that unlocks by making that decision just totally makes sense. And so you don't have to have an over 50% take rate on a more expensive order bump. If the value's there and only 10% of the people take it, you're making way more than making your order bump less than the main product.
Okay, Jordan. So talk to us about upsells. If your order bump could be much less or much more than your main offer, what are you seeing effective for upsells?
Yes, I'd say for most people, and again, for higher sophistication markets, they know who you are. You're more established. You could do an order bump that'd be significantly higher than your main. If you're maybe in a lesser sophistication market, or you just want to add a small little doodad kind of complementary purchase or product, you can make that a little bit less. So I always try to shoot for about that 50% mark. But then when you go to upsells, which for people who aren't familiar, in upsells on the next page, having a one click, it's a button essentially that says, yes, add this to my order, or no, don't add this to my order. They can just choose that without having to enter their credit card information again. For upsells, I always recommend having your very first one be higher than your initial price point. So say you've got, as you mentioned, a $97 product. I always recommend your very first, not your order bump, but your upsell, be probably about 2 to 3 times the value of the initial purchase. So if you're going to do 97, do $297 on the first upsell. And then on the downsell, if they say no, just direct them to a downsell offer that does what I call the risk trifecta, the risk mitigator trifecta. There's 3 things that you can add to really spice up really any offer. And that is guarantees, bonuses, and discounts. So you can choose any one of those 3 to boost the average cart value. So on the upsell, if you went from 97 to 297, maybe the downsell from that, if they say no, it's like, okay, hey, cool, I get it, but hey, I'm going to go ahead and I really think this is going to help you. You'll definitely want to check this out. Lots of people get up value from it. I'd like to bump off $50 to make this just, $250 or whatever it is, to add that in there, plus maybe a couple bonuses for taking it right now. Even if you're taking people at $250, it's far more than having an upsell that's less than the price of the main product. So there's a lot of ways to split it. My biggest thing is always just think about average order value across your funnel. So each individual piece, there are variables that you can change up and down virtually every couple of days based on the numbers. I usually like to see a minimum of a 20% take rate on any ancillary offer after the initial purchase. So whatever your first product is, I want to have at least a 10% order bump take rate. I need a 10% order bump on any upsell throughout the sequence. If it's performing less than that, we know it needs work. If it's at 40 to 50%, we'll just leave it alone because we know it's a winning offer.
I'm going to have to listen to this episode while I'm designing my next sales page. I love your level of specifics there. We had, the name Ryan Chapman of Fix Your Funnel?
Yeah, I've not met him, but I'm familiar.
Yeah, so sadly he passed away recently,
Okay.
but we have an episode with him on upsells. And he also says 20%. He says, anything you sell, on average, 20% of people will buy a well-crafted upsell. So if you're not having an upsell, you're just losing out on that 20%.
Yeah, it's pointless to not do it, for sure. I mean, and
yeah,
just because of how easy it is to add it, if you're going through the work and the effort to go out and build an actual sales funnel, just add that little extra 5, 10, 20% of effort to add in definitely order bumps, if not also upsells, and you'll be grateful you did.
I think we've all realized this is now a private coaching session for Redbeard that happens to be a podcast. So one last question, Jordan. Is upselling to an annual version of a monthly subscription a good idea? Like if I have a $197 month or $1970 a year, having the upsell set to $1970,
Boy,
is that a good idea, or should I have for something that's dissimilar?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think there are probably as many opinions about that as there are stars in the sky, but I can give you mine, is that I think when people are coming into a monthly recurring offer, if you're going to go immediately into a higher ticket or annualized or maybe even lifetime option, it can work. But what people often want to find is like, all right, I already jumped into this. I want to experience a win first. I want to engage in it and see like, what is this all about before I dive in deeper into this other thing. So if you're going to make the jump from like a 197 into like a 997, it's just got to be riddled with enough social proof to back up the claims or have some type of risk mitigator, money back guarantees, significant bonuses. And what I like to do is I really am not a big fan of unethical selling, right? In general, I take a big stance on that I don't like fake timers. I don't like countdowns that go nowhere, or any of those kind of shady tactics that aren't really based in reality. So there are other ways to use scarcity to your advantage, which is to say, hey, this offer, you can go buy this later on. Here's the price. It's going to be $3,000 for an annual membership to this course or whatever it is. But instead, you can get it right here. But just know that once you click away, you're not going to be able to get this offer again unless you come back through this funnel and buy it again. So some of that can be some good strategies to kind of increase order value. But what honestly, Brian, my best suggestion, if you're going to be jumping into from a low ticket to a high ticket product, would be to offer a sales call right on the thank you page and just literally identify it as their next steps. Because if you're going to be, instead of fighting for maybe $1,000 sales, you could be getting 3, 5, 10K sales by offering a custom onboarding or a welcome call, or just something at a touch point where you can be diagnosing what it is that they need.
Love it. Jordan, thank you for being on the podcast. If you're curious about this app, folks, it's dropfunnels.com. Sounds just like it, or is written just how it sounds. Jordan, for folks who want to follow you on social, where should they go?
Yeah, I tend to be a little bit of a recluse on social media, so I'm most active in our DropFunnels Facebook group. So you can go to just search DropFunnels in Facebook, and we're in there. We're always giving new trainings and unlocking new products and new giveaways and contests. We got a great affiliate program as well. But yeah, for most people who are just interested in giving it a shot, if there's any way that I can support anyone here, if you've already listened through the end, I'm sure we're friends here as well. So my personal email is Jordan, Jordan, @dropfunnels.com. If you have a question or if I can encourage you in some way, I'd love to do that.
Wonderful. Jordan, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Brian.